My name's Steve Maxwell. I've been training for more than half a century, almost 52 years. I started when I was a little boy in the basement of my father's house. And I was pretty much one of these soft, weak little kids. I'm not sure why, because we lived in a rural area. And I was getting picked on by some of the neighborhood boys. So my father decided to take things in the hand and try to teach me and my brother boxing. My brother was a year and a half younger than me. And I quickly realized I didn't like boxing. I hated to get punched, and I'd get furious when my brother would hit me and throw the gloves down and basically grab him, tackle him down to the ground. And my dad says, "Hey, you're no boxer, man. You're a wrestler." So the very next year, he had me go out for the school wrestling team. And I actually found something I was pretty good at. I excelled almost immediately in wrestling. I just had a knack for it and loved it. I wasn't particularly good at other sports, baseball, football was a little bit too small. They didn't have gymnastics in those days. I think I might have had the strength to do gymnastics. But yeah, so I grew up in a rural area, little Carlisle, and the people I admired most were my physical education teachers. And I knew from the time I was 12 years old I wanted to be a gym teacher, a physical education instructor. And my gym teacher, Bill Woods, was also my wrestling and football coach. So that's where my career was headed, right from that point on, early. And of course I wrestled all through high school and wrestled NCAA Division I at Westchester State. It was a state teachers college at that time. And I graduated with a degree in health and physical education from Westchester and taught in the public school and did some wrestling coaching, a little bit of football coaching, although I have to tell you, I wasn't that knowledgeable of a football coach, but I did have my hand in it. But I loved wrestling. And all the while, the whole time, of course, I was training for my wrestling. I started working in the commercial fitness industry right about 1972 at a place called Huff and Puff Gym in Drexel Line Shopping Center. That was the very first Nautilus gym. Up to that point, I've been working with barbells, and I went through the Olympic lifting phase and the powerlifting phase. I even had a short stint as bodybuilding phase when I was like 16, 17. I got real interested in getting big and so forth. But my true purpose was training. Right from the beginning was to be the best athlete or wrestler that I could be. So you might say that I had my start with performance-based training. And I went through, each decade brought something new. But when Arthur Jones started writing his articles for the old Muscular Development and Perry Rader's Iron Man magazines, I was really intrigued. What are these newfangled Nautilus machines? And the whole idea of high-intensity training really appealed. Being rather of an intense personality, being an extremist. So I started working at that Drexel Line Shopping Center Nautilus place, Huff and Puff, and wow, I was blown away with Nautilus. Now nowadays, this whole concept that machines aren't functional and, people are just doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I can tell you straight up that I was in some of the best shape of my life back in those old Nautilus days. And those workouts were brutally fucking hard. I mean, brutally hard, man. And I was in great condition. And that's where the term metabolic conditioning was coined by Art Jones with his old Nautilus circuits. And from there, I eventually, once I quit teaching school, I worked as a fitness director in a couple different center city clubs in the Philadelphia area, and ended up with my own gym, Maxwell. And that was the first Brazilian Jiu Jitsu school, and it was the first certified super slow school, mostly hammer strength and Nautilus equipment when we first opened. But then I started to get rather exploratory. I started checking out other exercise philosophies and beliefs, because up to that point I was pretty much a dyed-in-the-wool HIIT guy, high-intensity training guy. And I started looking at the Russian, Eastern European systems and got very intrigued with kettlebells. I started looking at the Middle Asian wrestling cultures with their club swinging and mace swinging, and the Matt Fury referred to it as the combat conditioning. It was basically Kushti wrestling training. And started exploring other avenues, and finally have kind of come full circle, actually, and I'm finding that the HIIT philosophy really did suit me all along. And I think that especially as you begin to age, the high intensity training philosophy is a really good one to stick with. So I've kind of come full circle back. And there was a lot of little adventures in between. I tried various martial arts and such, but in 1989 I had my first Brazilian Jiu Jitsu experience, and it blew me away. I had been looking for a long time something to replace wrestling, because everything was geared in my life towards wrestling, and I felt lost once I didn't have that. And I tried all these different sports, different martial arts, and to tell you the truth, I just didn't get that jazz feeling about any of them. And when I met the Gracie brothers in New Jersey for that first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu seminar, I was just blown away, man. And that's what I knew I wanted to dedicate myself. Right then and there, I made up my mind I was going to get my black belt and become a certified instructor. And I started flying out to California and training with Hoya and Gracie and Hoyce. And of course, at that time, everyone was together. Hickson, Hoyler, everyone was at the old Gracie Academy on Carson. And yeah, the rest is history, man. Just because I did have an exercise, I was able to mat out a whole room. And I started the first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy in the Eastern Seaboard of the United States before anyone else was doing it. Then later, there was a million guys, but they all started pretty much at my place, Maxwell. Henzo was like one of the first guys to come into the area, legit guys. There may have been a couple of periphery guys somewhere along the line, but you never heard of them, and they weren't big news. But Maxwell was like a destination point for many, many guys. Even to this day, I have people writing to me how much they enjoyed the old days and how much they learned. And then I started hosting seminars all over the place. I would rent out a ballroom in Atlantic City and bring Hoyan and Hoyce in, and later Helson, and I made those guys tens of thousands of dollars, you better believe me, with the East Coast seminars. So that's the basic background, and I'm still going ever since. After my divorce, I sold my gym, and believe it or not, I lived like a teenage boy, like a college kid. I moved in a camper van. It was always a dream I had. It was like, I didn't want one of those big RVs. I just wanted a nice little tricked out van with everything in it. And I had this Mercedes work van that had been converted by Westphalia. Slickest thing ever. And I lived in that van for almost 3 years, just driving back and forth, doing jiu-jitsu. Like, I had some money that I had saved up. And eventually started traveling so much, I got in the seminar circuit with both fitness and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, that I wouldn't see that van for months at a time. So I decided I better sell it while it's still worth something, because it was pretty much evident to me that I wasn't going to be living in it anymore. So I pretty much sold that van and moved into a suitcase and became a digital nomad. So that basically everything I own is in one 65, not even 45 liter bag. I just scaled down recently. And it's just a little bag I wear on my back. And everything I own is in that bag. So now I just travel from place to place and make my living off the internet and seminars. And have a website with video downloads and things that I sell, online fat loss and training programs, dietary advice and information. And started getting into the download business too, filming and documenting all the stuff I've been doing for decades. And now I sell them and download for them. And it's been a good business for me. And I just basically travel from place to place. In any contest, jiu-jitsu is a physical combat between two people. In any contest where skill is exactly equal, strength and size matter a lot. And strength and size can overcome technique to a large extent as well. Now, do you want to depend on strength and size? Of course not. You want your technique to be so superb that you don't really need to dip into your strength well, as they say. But strength makes you more efficient, makes your muscles less susceptible to injury, makes your joints more resilient. If strength training is done properly, it can even improve your cardio. And the reason why is if you are a weak person, everything is a maximal effort. Things become a maximal effort very quickly. So that when you strengthen all the involved skeletal muscles, you take a big load off the heart because everything's submaximal. I'll give you an example. I had an old guy come up to my gym. He was in his 80s. And just walking the stairs up to my first floor, the guy was out of breath, and it was like a maximal workout for that old man to walk up those stairs. After just a couple months of strength training with me, he was walking up like a kid, effortless. That's because in the beginning, his legs were so weak. Each step, just lifting his body weight, was like this max effort. But once I actually doubled this guy's strength in just a couple months, and by the end, we actually had tripled his starting strength levels from where he started. So now climbing a stair was a very submaximal effort for his muscles. Therefore, the heart didn't have to work that hard. He became more efficient. So I would tell all those guys out there, be as strong as you possibly can, but try to use as little as you can. So that when you're training, try to use no more than 20 to 40% of your strength. Obviously, if you're, if you're getting caught in a bad position, you might have to use more strength than if you're not. But for the most part, you try to minimize the use of the strength as little as possible. But let's say you're using 20% of your strength, but you're enormously strong. That 20% is going to feel ridiculously strong to like just the average person. So for sure, strength training has a huge place. With this proviso, the problem is the type of strength training that you do. You want to use general strength training. The idea, you shouldn't care about the amount of weight, you shouldn't care about the number of reps. You're not training to be good at exercise. You're training to be good at Jiu Jitsu. So doing stunts and feats and tricks and power lifts and worrying about how much you're benching and all that kind of stuff, or how much you're deadlifting, that's not the key. The key is to use very general exercises that take very little skill, work your muscles really hard. And because Jiu Jitsu is a form of resistance training, you can't do a lot of supplementary training. If you're rolling 4 times a week, more than 4 or 5, you probably should only be strength training once a week. If you're only getting on the mat like a couple times a week, well, then you could up that to twice a week. It's interesting. When I was in the 70s, I wrestled a guy from the former Soviet Union in the Montreal Open Wrestling Tournament. He was actually in the process of defecting. His name was Victor Silberman. He was a world gold medalist, and I think he took a silver in the Olympics. Badass guy. Pretty much kicked my butt. But it was I had a chance to talk to him through an interpreter after the tournament. I was absolutely stunned when he told me that I said, how often do you lift weights? And he said 4 times a month. And I just couldn't accept that. I asked the question 3 times because I couldn't believe my ears. He said, yeah, once a week. The Soviets, who have dominated the wrestling scene for decades, pretty much train infrequently, brief and infrequent. They found that if they train more, they're too tired, too burnt out to do what they really need to do, is develop the skills of wrestling. So you get your cardio through your skill rehearsal with grappling. So guys, don't worry about running and sprints and all that shit. You don't need it. You just get out there and you wrestle, and then you weight train once, at the most twice a week, and you'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine. If you can't get in the mat, you're trying to keep your endurance levels up, then there might be an argument for some running or some stair sprints or that type of stuff. But if you're strength training properly and you're doing like a circuit style with very little rest, that is the very best type of cardio you can get. And you're getting strength, you're getting endurance, you're getting mobility, you're getting cardio, all in the same workout, so you don't need all these separate programs. It's a fantastic way to train. It's very good, especially for guys my age in their 60s. It's a real good way to preserve your youth. And it's safe. You should never be getting hurt with your strength training. If you're getting hurt in your strength training, you have no clue what you're doing. Getting hurt in Jiu Jitsu, that's a given. It's going to happen. You're going to tweak something, it happens. But, you expect it in a combat martial art. Strength training never should be pulling muscles, hurting your back. You should not need to foam roll and do all this preparation to weight training. It means you're weight training improperly. Your weight training should leave you feeling pretty trash, tired, but it should leave you feeling good, you know, like your joints and all that kind of stuff. Strength training. Yeah. Jiu-Jitsu, as good as it is, you need a progressive strength training. But other than that, the Jiu-Jitsu should pretty much give you everything. I would say, though, that you need to also work on compensatory movement patterns because you're in the same basic positions all the time in Jiu-Jitsu. You can get some pretty bad posture. So you want to work the opposing muscle groups. This could be done in your strength training, but you can also do mobility drills, you know. For example, I'm going to give you a classic example. Everyone does elbow escapes. I mean, just out the wazoo, right? It's just every jiu-jitsu school anywhere in the world, they warm up with a lot of elbow escapes. But what is the compensatory move? If you use just one movement pattern all the time, you start to put yourself in bad posture. It's like sitting at a desk all day. You know, you start. In fact, jiu-jitsu guys, a lot of times, that aren't paying attention to this, they end up looking all hunched over like a computer guy. Almost the same exact posture. Kyphosis, forward head. So one compensatory movement might be doing commando crawls on your belly with your back arched, your head up, and crawling on your elbows to work the back. That's why I always thought that like in Hawaii and certain areas in California, the guys surf. What a beautiful compensatory movement pattern for Jiu-Jitsu. Pretty much all the muscles that you don't use in Jiu-Jitsu, you're using very strongly in surfing. It still doesn't replace proper strength training. You still need to do some progressive scientific strength training, but I'll tell you, surfing is a really nice combination with Jiu-Jitsu for developing the upper back and the neck and the posterior chain, whereas Jiu-Jitsu is pretty much all anterior chain. So you can pretty much do it all on the mat as far as your conditioning, but you do need to do some compensatory movements. I really recommend people stretch out their fingers and their forearms from the over gripping, you know. I like to put a rubber band around my fingers and open my fingers to compensate for all the gripping I'm doing. So you can do little things like that. I'm certainly not against stretching, you know, especially tight muscle groups. Hamstrings and hip flexors get pretty tight sometimes. So not a bad idea to throw some stretching in, but that can all be done on the mat pretty much when you're at class. Spend a few minutes doing some of these compensatory movement patterns before class maybe, and then stretch out after class. You have a pretty nice little workout. You know, grappling in general, doesn't matter whether it be judo, wrestling, sambo, jiu-jitsu, there are so many attributes necessary to being successful in the sport. Obviously, strength would be number one, because, you know, strength is key to success in any combat. It doesn't matter. You know, the stronger you are, the more efficiently you can do stuff. And the less, like we were talking earlier, you know, the less energy it takes to do technique when you're strong. So even a low percentage of your strength used to do a technique takes a lot less out of you systemically. So strength would be number one. It just depends on your style. You know, if you are naturally flexible, for sure you're going to get more into the inversion game, the berimbolos and all that kind of stuff. Just all depends. I think different personalities are attracted to different. I know some guys just love that deep half guard and they're just crazy good with it. You know, your body and its dimensions are going to dictate what style you're going to be in. Coming from a wrestling background, I love to play top. My takedowns and throws were good enough. I could put most guys in the bottom so that they had to play guard, and I loved trying to figure out how to pass guard. It was like working out of you know, a difficult puzzle, especially some guys, you know. But yeah, over the years with the more outrageous techniques, you know, I'm not a real big fan of the 50-50, but I'll tell you something, man. If you get in these situations and you don't know the position, man, you can get tapped, you know. And 50-50, a guy that really knows a lot about heel hooks and all that, like in these no holds barred type grappling matches, you know, like the Metamoris and stuff, dude, you're gonna tap, man. You're gonna get your foot or knee ripped. You need to practice all those basic positions. And you should at least be somewhat familiar with berimbolo and all that kind of stuff, because you're gonna get tapped if you don't. Whether you use it or not is beside the point. See, I agree with the basic Gracie Jiu Jitsu philosophy of keeping the martialness in your training. You know, especially at my age now, I like to know I can still take care of myself. So I'm always thinking when I'm training, like, what if the guy was going to headbutt me, or what if he's going to hit me, or whatever, you know? Hiron and Henner and Halleck, they do a great job with their fight analysis, you know, on YouTube. So my training's more geared towards self-defense and just being able to keep myself safe as I go through this aging process thing. The competition thing doesn't really appeal to me nearly as much as it used to. You know, I had the competition bug for a while, but I have seen quite an evolution from Gracie self-defense towards pure sport. But now it seems like it's going full circle and people are really interested in the self-defense again. And I get a lot of seminars for that, and I have to tell you, I learned from the best, absolutely the best. I learned from Master Elliot Gracie himself and his sons. And I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, man. So I found a little niche for myself, because I think people want to feel safe in this dangerous world. And let's face it is a dangerous world out there. And people want to know that they can protect themselves, their loved ones, their families. And the Gracie self-defense system is one of the best ones I've seen. And you mix that in with a couple other little things, you have a brilliant system. You know, people think of me as the kettlebell guy. And I did enjoy a time with kettlebells. One of the main reasons I'm not doing that much kettlebell work anymore is simply it's just inconvenient. You know, I travel full time, and traveling with a kettlebell is, you know, it's just the logistical nightmare, basically. You know, I have carried a kettlebell on, but man, the carry-on requirements now are getting stricter and stricter, and you know, it's just a pain in the ass, especially if you're going from place to place to place. Now, some of the places I coach and teach in have kettlebells, but it's just, that means I have to go to the gym, and a lot of times I'm in a hotel room, and so I started going mostly to body weight. And I like body weight training because it frees me from having to use anything else. The gym's always open, you know. I would say though, the kettlebell training system, especially get-ups and swings, are fantastic. You wouldn't need a whole lot else to get a really, really good workout. And I would add to that some type of pull-up, whether it be rope climbing, towel, chin-ups or towel pulls, or just either old-fashioned Miller-style pull-ups or chin-ups, and you can mix it up, you know. You throw in some dips. Obviously, squatting could be a good thing. If you don't have a lot of equipment, you can always do one-legged squats. You can always do goblet squats. I'll tell you, just doing a conditioning circuit of swings, immediately chased with goblet squat, fantastic. And then you knock out some Turkish get-ups with some pull-ups. You could even make them into a circuit, super circuit, or you could superset, get-up, you know, set of get-ups left, pull-ups. Set of get-ups right, pull-ups. You know, a couple sets of those, you can get a hell of a workout. And I guess by definition, you could still almost classify that as high intensity, because when you're doing it, you know you're working it. But the load is more mechanical than metabolic. You know, the mechanical workload that you have, it really gets your heart rate up. It builds a pretty heavy oxygen debt. People like to produce an oxygen debt when they train, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the most efficient way to do it. You know, I still think that high intensity training is probably your best way to go. But hey, a lot of people like to do a lot of things. I've done all these things. I've swung clubs and maces and done all sorts of crazy circuits and did some sandbag training and all that. But I still think that the high intensity training model, based in either body weight or whatever, or you know, if you like hammer strength machines, or you know, they have that's fine. You're going to get a great workout, a very safe way to train. Very important. And what a lot of people don't understand is isometric strength will make you stronger in your movement patterns as well. So if you get stronger isometrically, you get stronger across the board. When I was a kid, isometrics were incredibly popular back in the 60s. And in those days, you would do 6-second holds, at various positions, because it was found that you only got strong at the angle that you were training within a couple degrees. But there's been some modern developments in isometric training where you do a prolonged isometric static contraction up to 90 seconds. It is really tough. And they found that you get full range strength. You recruit all the muscle fibers. Yeah, it's brutal. As brutal as it sounds. So imagine I'm here and I'm doing a curl on this table, and I want to put myself in a position of mechanical disadvantage. And so I'm going to put myself just about right here with my arms at 90 degrees where I'm weaker. And then I start to slowly ease into the contraction over 5 seconds. And then the next 25 seconds, I'm pushing as hard as I dare, right? And then the next 30 seconds as hard as I possibly can. And the last 30 seconds, I'll be shaking and quivering and just trying to survive. Absolutely a fantastic way. It's called time static contraction training. One of the, Mike Menser was a big proponent of isometrics. Of course, everyone's heard of Bruce Lee. He was a huge isometric guy. Henry Wittenberg, he was a world gold medalist and Olympic champion for USA freestyle wrestling. Huge advocate of isometrics. You'll find guys all through history that were huge isometric guys. And it's a very good way to train. And forget all this stuff about selective training of fast twitch versus slow twitch. You train all the muscle fibers. There's no such thing as moving fast and you train your fast twitch muscle fibers. That's baloney. There's just absolutely no data to support that. If you want to get fast in the mat, you got to do your skills fast in the mat. So doing explosive anything does not make you faster or more explosive. It does not. Not important at all, man. Except the skills on the mat. If you want to be really explosive and fast at doing, let's say, a drop seinogi throw or a double leg pickup throw, you got to practice that at match speed, hard and fast. That's where you get your sport-specific explosiveness. But doing a deadlift super fast, or this whole idea that if you're doing Olympic barbell snatches is going to make you more explosive, it will at doing Olympic barbell snatches. It doesn't really translate into other non-related techniques because it's too technical. You get really good at doing that particular movement and you will get stronger. I mean, anything you do with weights, even dumb stuff, will make you stronger. But it's not the most efficient way to get stronger. You get stronger any weight training as long as it's progressive. Fast, slow, whatever. But the problem is it's not sustainable. It's dangerous to lift heavy weights fast. It really, truly is. You put a lot of shearing forces on your joints and your connective tissue, and over time you'll get a lot of little injuries. Take it from a guy that used to train that way. So it won't make you faster on the mat. What makes you faster on the mat is training your techniques and skills at game speed. But you notice that smooth is fast. Guys that are real technicians, they're not explosive or jerky or anything. They're just smooth, and the timing and the precision is impeccable. And you can sometimes actually wrestle a guy like that. I can remember as a blue belt wrestling, the Gracie brothers, and it almost looked like it was coming slow-mo. And I could see what was happening, but I couldn't stop it, And I remember hearing Hoist saying, smooth is fast. So if you're smooth and fluid, you don't need that herky-jerky explosivity. But even if I was training a striker or a boxer, the way I'd increase his explosivity would be with the pads and the bag. You have the guy throw punches explosively and hit stuff, and then his punches are going to get stronger and faster. But I never agreed that throwing weights around, doing weight training exercises, it equates into faster punches. Getting stronger will, because the most important component of power is strength. Increase your strength, your power automatically increases. And then you do the sport-specific conditioning required for whatever it is. Kicking a soccer ball, running a sprint, picking up your training partner in like a double A pickup throw, whatever it is.